She was once mocked as a nobody, but the gods crowned her queen. Greedy hearts tried to stop true love with lies and bribes, but truth rose like the sun, and justice spoke louder than fear. Sit back as I take you on this amazing story. The whole palace became very quiet. No one spoke, no one moved. Even the birds outside stopped singing. Baba Olokun's voice still echoed in their ears. The queen placed her chest and whispered softly, "Oluwa o." The elders looked at one another, their faces full of fear and confusion. Abike stood like a statue. Her eyes were on the floor. She did not cry. She did not smile. She just stood there like a tree frozen in the wind. Then Oba Adebayo rose slowly from his seat. He held up his royal staff, a tall wooden stick carved with sacred signs, a staff only the wisest and most truthful elders were allowed to carry. His voice was calm, but strong like thunder in the clouds. "Baba Olokun," he said, "you have spoken your mind. But the gods we serve, they are not gods of fear or pride. They are gods of truth, gods of peace. This girl, Abike, has done no wrong. And Prince Ifedayo, a man of honor, he has chosen her with his heart. The people have seen her too. They saw her truth." Everyone in the palace listened closely. Then Baba Olokun's face changed. His eyes grew dark like a storm cloud. He slowly turned his head and looked at everyone. The queen, the prince, the chiefs, Abike. Then in a low voice and cold like harmattan wind, he said, "I have warned you all." He turned around slowly. His long wrapper dragged behind him. His walking stick tapped the ground. And without looking back, Baba Olokun walked out of the palace, leaving a heavy silence behind him. The people whispered to one another. Was he speaking the truth, or was his heart angry? Everyone slowly turned to face Oba Adebayo. Then Oba Adebayo turned towards the Prince Ifedayo, his eyes steady. "Prince Ifedayo," he said, "now we must hear your voice." Prince Ifedayo stood up slowly, his heart beat loud in his chest. Dum, dum, dum. He looked around the big palace. He saw the queen, the chiefs, the elders, the guards, the townspeople. Then he turned and looked at Abike. Their eyes met. She was still, calm, but strong. He took a deep breath and spoke. "My people," he said clearly, "thank you for coming today. I thank the elders, the queen, and every single person here. But now, it is time for truth." He turned fully to face Abike. His voice grew stronger, but his eyes were soft with emotion. This woman came to the palace with nothing but honesty in her heart. She wore no gold. She had no royal title. She showed no pride, but she danced from her soul. She respected everyone. She stood strong even when tested. She's not just a princess in name. She's a woman of peace and purpose. There was silence for a heartbeat. Then, clap. The people began to clap, slowly at first, then louder, then cheering. As the prince raised his hand, the clapping stopped. "Yet," he said, We cannot ignore Baba Olokun's words. We must understand where his fear came from. So I ask, let us call the greatest chief priest in this land. Let him tell us what the true gods are saying. Let us hear from the spirit world, not just from men. The people shouted, yes! Let the gods speak. The real priest must come. Oba Adebayo turned to a palace guard. Go, he said, ride fast. Go to the mountain village called the great chief priest. Let him come and tell us what the gods truly say. The rider bowed, ran out and jumped on his horse. Off he rode into the night. The people stood, waiting. Some were silent, some prayed, some held each other's hands. The truth was coming. That evening, the sky turned orange as the chief priest finally arrived. He was an old man with long gray hair, wearing a long white cloth. He walked slowly, his face very serious. When he stepped into the palace, everyone went quiet. He sat in front of the elders. From his bag, he brought out a small bowl filled with red palm oil. He poured the oil onto a sacred stone in front of him. Then he closed his eyes. Everyone waited. Even the birds outside stopped chirping. After some time, the priest opened his eyes and said in a loud, deep voice, "The gods have shown me everything." The crowd held their breath. Baba Olokun was not speaking for the gods. The priest said he was speaking because of money. Ha! People shouted in shock. Even the queen looked surprised. The priest continued. The fathers of Yetunde and Shade gave Baba Olokun cowries, goats, and bags of yam. They wanted him to stop the prince from marrying Abike. They wanted their daughters to marry the prince so they could become rich and powerful. The people turned and looked at Yetunde and Shade. The girls were trying to hide behind others, but it was too late. Everyone had seen them. Even the palace guards were shaking their heads. The chief priest stood up, his voice even stronger now. The gods are not angry with Abike. The gods are angry with those who use the lies to stop true love. The palace fell into silence again. The truth had come out. Oba Adebayo stood up slowly. His face was very serious. Bring Yetunde, Shade, and their fathers to the front, he said firmly. The guards walked into the crowd and pulled them forward. The two fathers could not even raise their heads. They were too ashamed. The girls looked scared. Oba Adebayo looked at them with eyes full of disappointment. "You have brought shame to your families," he said, "and shame to this land." The queen shook her head slowly. "We almost punished an innocent girl," she whispered, "because of your lies." The other elders nodded in agreement. Then Prince Ifedayo stepped forward. His eyes were filled with truth. His voice was strong. "You tried to use tricks and money to fool the people. You tried to control the gods, but the gods are not blind. The gods cannot be bought." The people murmured in agreement. Then came the punishment. Oba Adebayo raised his hand and said, "From today, these two men are no longer chiefs in this land." Gasps spread through the palace, and Yetunde and Shade will work on the village farm for 1 full year. Let them learn that greed brings pain, and that love is not something you buy. The girls cried quietly, but the judgment was clear. The people finally understood. The next morning, the sun rose softly over the lands. Bells were singing. The palace was calm. Prince Ifedayo sat quietly, then stood up and called the elders together. He took a deep breath, then said with a smile, "Elders, I have something to say. I want to marry Abike, but I must do it the right way, the way of our people. We must go to her father's land and ask for her hand in marriage." The elders nodded. Chief Elder Adebayo stood up. "You have spoken well," he said. "Let us go with honor. Let us follow our tradition." So, a royal group was chosen. It included Oba Adebayo, the Queen Mother, and other respected chiefs. They got dressed in their finest Yoruba attire and set off for the kingdom of Ikpetu, where Abike's father, King Obadina, lived. When they arrived, they saw King Obadina sitting on his carved throne. He looked calm and strong. With wise eyes, the visitors knelt before him to show respect. Then Oba Adebayo stepped forward. "Kábíyèsí," he said, "we come to you today in peace. Your daughter has won the heart of our prince. She is kind, humble, and full of light. We ask with full honor for her hand in marriage." The king smiled. His eyes were soft as he remembered his daughter's gentle spirit. "Abike has always followed her heart," he said, "and her heart has led her to a good place. I give you my blessing." The room was filled with joy. Drums were played softly. Prayers were said. The marriage was agreed, and the news spread fast. A royal wedding was coming. It was the biggest wedding the town of Ado-Ekiti had ever seen. The celebration lasted 7 whole days. Drums beat day and night. Goats were roasted over fire. Palm wine flowed like a river. People danced from morning till moonlight. Abike wore a beautiful red and gold wrapper, tied perfectly around her waist. Her hair was tied with beads, and her smile shined brighter than the sun. Prince Ifedayo wore a white agbada with blue embroidery, looking like a true prince of peace. Guests came from many towns. Even children sat on rooftops just to see the new royal couple. The woman in the crowd whispered with wide eyes, "Can you believe this is the same girl they once called a nobody?" Another replied, "Look what humility and truth can do." Even the birds flew above the palace and sang sweet songs. The Queen Mother wiped a joyful tear from her eye. Oba Adebayo smiled quietly, proud of the truth that had finally come out. Then Prince Ifedayo and Abike stood hand in hand, facing the people. "Thank you," Prince Ifedayo said. "Today is not just about a wedding. It is about truth, about love, and about listening to the gods, not just men." The crowd clapped. Children danced. Elders blessed them. The sky glowed golden. It was a new beginning. The wedding was over, but the celebrations were not. The next morning, a big crowd filled the palace square. Drummers were already beating hard. Dancers moved in circles. The air smelled of sweet flavors and roasted meats. Everyone had come to witness something very special. At the center of it all stood Prince Ifedayo, tall and calm, dressed in a long white robe. Beside him was Abike, holding his hand, smiling with joy. Then Oba Adebayo stepped forward. He held a golden crown wrapped in white clothes. The people went silent. "People of Ado-Ekiti," he said loudly, "by the power of the gods and the voice of the people, We now crown Prince Ifedayo as our king. The crowd clapped and cheered. Obadebayo slowly raised the crown high into the air. He looked into Ifedayo's eyes. Rule with wisdom, rule with justice, rule with love, he said. He gently placed the crown on his head. The drums thundered like lightning. The ground shook with joy. Then the Queen Mother stepped forward. She held a beautiful red bead necklace shining under the sun. She placed it gently around Abike's neck. You are now our queen, she said, but don't forget who you are. Keep your heart humble, always. Abike knelt down and bowed her head. Her eyes were full of tears, not sad ones, but tears of joy. All around, people shouted and clapped. Long live the king! Long live the queen! May they reign in peace and love. Children danced. Elders prayed. Even the birds flew in circles above them. It was the beginning of a new chapter, a new king, a kind queen, and a hopeful people. Now that they were crowned, King Ifedayo and Queen Abike went to work right away. They didn't sit and do nothing. They opened new schools so that children could learn. They helped widows, giving them food and care. They gave land to poor farmers who had no place to grow crops. The people of Ado-Ekiti began to say, this is what true rulers look like. But what touched people the most was Abike. She didn't become proud. She didn't look down on others. She still greeted the elders by kneeling. She still walked through the village market like a regular woman. She still helped the old woman carrying baskets. She still listened before she spoke. Everywhere she went, little girls followed her and watched how she talked. Mothers would smile and whisper to their daughters, be like Queen Abike, humble and kind. That is how you find favor. It didn't take long before her name became a lesson. Even the women who once laughed at her now said, if you want a good man, be like Abike. Her story became a quiet song, passed from mouth to mouth, from heart to heart. Many years passed. The sun rose and set many times over Ado-Ekiti. The trees grew taller. The rivers kept flowing. But one thing never changed, the love between King Ifedayo and Queen Abike. And soon, the palace was filled with the sound of little feet. Queen Abike gave birth to 5 children, 3 strong sons and 2 beautiful daughters. Each time a baby was born, the people danced in the village square. Drums rolled, women sang, and men raised their hands to the sky. The palace has been blessed again, they shouted. The gods are smiling on us. Each child was given a special name. One name meant peace, another meant truth, another meant light, another meant joy, and the last one meant love. These names were not just for beauty. They told the story of how everything began. When each baby was born, King Ifedayo would come out holding the child in his arms. He would show the baby to the people and say, this child will never forget where they come from, not from pride, but from truth. And the people shared because they felt like the children belonged to all of them, not just to the king and queen, but to the whole land of Ado-Ekiti. The palace was no longer just a place for kings and chiefs. It had become a home, a place of joy, of laughter, of kindness, and everyone felt like family. At night, when the moon was full and the firewood crackled, people sat outside their huts to tell stories. The children would sit close, eyes wide, ears open, and the story that was told the most was the story of Queen Abike. She was the girl they once called nobody. The elders would begin. She wore no gold, but her heart shone brighter than a diamond. She didn't beg to be queen. Love chose her. Even after many, many years, young girls would sit under trees and whisper, if I can just be like Queen Abike, maybe the gods will bless me too. They copied the way she walked, the way she smiled, the way she treated others. And in every home, her name was spoken with love. Fathers told their sons, find a woman like Abike. Mothers told their daughters, be humble like the queen. And so, the story of a prince, a simple girl, and a truth that could not be hidden lived on forever. Ado Ekiti never forgot, and the whole land remembered one powerful thing. Thank you for listening. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next